Jeepers. Today we're going to go over 3 new ways to get better traction out of your tires.
I get asked all the time, what tire pressure do I run? And that's always a variable that you can't really say just a generalized pressure, because it matters on the weight of your rig, your suspension geometry, the thickness of your sidewall, if you're running radials or bias plies, and way too many other things, bead locks or not. But you do know that I run a tire ballast in my tires, if you've seen that video. In this video, I'm going to show you 3 more tricks on how to get a little more traction out of your tires and cheat your friends just a little more the next time you go wheeling. And I'm going to show you how to do it out of all stuff you can get out of your garage.
So first things first, the 3 ways that I want to try to get better traction out of my tires, ways that I've done in the past, is first, tire siping. If you've never heard of tire siping, it's basically the sipes that you put in tires like Blizzaks. If you've ever seen a Blizzak winter tires, they have sipes in them. It gives you better traction on ice. The second one is tire grooming. Tire grooming has been huge amongst heavy equipment operations, rock crawling, especially any other, the military, all of it. So that is another way to get really good traction. We'll break that down. And the third one is fluids that we can spray on our tires to soften up the rubber and get better traction on the rocks. So let's get started.
So when I talk about tire siping, this is exactly what I'm talking about. These are factory tire sipes where they've added in these little notches here, and what that does, that gets you just this tiny little bit of extra traction. Look at the spider. So what a lot of people do that live in cold country is they'll go ahead and take their tires at the tire store when they're brand new and have them sipe these tires with little razor blades that spin and catch these tires and just sipe them up every ½ inch or so. There'll be a sipe on these treads all the way down. And what that does, that gets you much better traction when you're driving on snow and ice. So what I want to show you is a handful of different ways that I've heard of people siping tires. Now for me personally, I use a tire groover. A tire groover is something that gets real hot, it gets the metal hot, and it cuts right through just like butter if you got a good one. Now they have a tool similar to like a sander or a planer, a hand planer, where you can run that razor blade across and use both hands. I do not have that tool, but I'm going to try this razor blade method and see if it actually works. Okay, so that actually does work. To set it out, I have to really put some pressure on it, and I can't get very straight, but we are siping the tire. It does sipe. You want to make sure you don't go through the tire. Obviously, you want to stay on the tread and not go past the tire. So if you got to set your blade to the width of your tire so you're not going out past it. This is going to take me forever though. I will spend days on this, and I'll probably have Popeye forearms by the time I'm done. It did work though, I'm not going to lie, it did work. The next one we're going to try is a soldering iron. So let's see if that works. So the iron's hot. Let's see if I can groove through this tire. I'm going to go with no, but well, it is working. Oh man, I gotta really push though. Oof, that stinks. This also works to sipe a tire. This is gonna take you even longer than this. Both these are, you know what, $5-10. Cheap ways of doing it, gonna take you a really, really long time. I don't know if you guys have seen these before. This is, I think the technical term is an oscillating angle grinder, but don't quote me on that. I'm not 100% sure. This one's just a Rockwell Sony Crafter. I don't know what the difference is, but basically this just goes like this. It doesn't spin 360 degrees like a regular grinder would, but it just oscillates back and forth like a little saw. And you have different blade widths and different things you can use them for. But this is something that I've seen people use for tire siping and tire grooving. So we're going to try it for tire siping first and see how it works. The oscillating angle grinder didn't work as good as I'd hoped. It took a lot more pressure to go through, and it was actually a lot slower than I would have thought it would have been. I actually think that I could probably sipe these tires. I actually think I could probably sipe these tires faster with this thing than I could with this. But this would take a lot more manual labor. This is a lot less manual labor. The difference being is blade is probably, this is probably $5-10, where this is probably more along the lines of $30 to $60, and then you'd still have to buy some blades. So one thing I've seen people attempt to use is a cutoff disc. I will not recommend using a cutoff disc for any of these items. Reason being is they're going to get hot and then they're going to explode. They're not designed to get hot against rubber. They're not designed to get hot against plastic. If you ever cut in a bunch of plastic with these, or even aluminum with them, they don't do too hot. These are made for metal, and they should stay with metal. So I will not suggest ever using one of these for any of these projects. So the last thing I'm going to try for tire siping before the tire groover is a Sawzall. Now this is obviously the second to most expensive tool. These are about 60 to 80 bucks, plus you got to buy a good blade. But we'll see if it works, see if I can actually get it in there to sipe the middle of the tire. Okay, well that wasn't too bad. It definitely was faster than any of the other things I've tried yet. It's honestly probably as fast, if not faster, than my tire groover is with the blades on it. But I don't have any control over it. I can't get very straight sipes, so it really doesn't matter. But if I only wanted to sipe the inner lugs of the tire, because my blade's so long and because of the shape of the blade, you'd have to have some weird shaped blade. Maybe you could pull it off where you could just get the middle of your tire if you're just trying to get the middle and not the outer lugs. When I used to do super swampers a lot, I would just do the middle lugs and not the outer 3-stage of those lugs. So this is the last tool we're going to try. This is an actual official tire groover. This is a professional version of a tire groover. You can get these off of Amazon or eBay. They're usually about $200 to $250. They have temperature controls, bolt controls. You have a actual switch here that when it presses, that's what engages the heat. You have different size blades. You can go different depths, so you can make sure you're not going too deep into your tire. This is about the best setup you can get. Now they do make a cheaper version of these tire groovers that's just a handle that plugs in, and they're about 80 to 90 bucks. Don't waste your time on those, because after about 4 to 10 tires, they usually just crap out. So if you're going to spend the money on a tire groover, or you and your buddy, maybe you both want to groove your tires, you can literally buy one of these for the cost of a Sawzall split between the two of you, and you can both do it. So you can see here I set the depth so I don't go down into the tire. That's one thing you always want to make sure that you don't do when you're trying to sipe or groove or do anything to tires, is you don't want to get down into this part of the tire. You can always cut the wear bars out, but you don't want to get down below the actual carcass of the tire. So the difference between a Sawzall and the oscillating grinder and a tire groover is, look at how much smoother these cuts are. Real crisp, sharp. I actually have to pull it apart to be able to see them. I didn't open them up like that. So what that means is they'll work really, really well once the tire is folding and moving and flexing. They're just a smoother, cleaner cut, but I'd actually still say that this is a little slower than the Sawzall. So your choice, pick your poison. But see, the Sawzall, I came all the way out to here. I can't just get in here like I can with a tire groover. Well, that's really all there is to tire siping. Let's get on to grooving. So as you can see, I grooved my Milestars here, being that they're already a black label sticky, but I went ahead and grooved them to open up the middle. I'm probably going to go ahead and groove these out too. But this is no different than what I've done with Swampers in the past. These are an old set of Swampers. This is where the wear bar is, right here. And I'd groove them out this way. I've grooved them out this way. I've even grooved the bigger lug on the 3rd stage. So I may even throw a little groove in here, just chase these original sipes. But you always just kind of, when you go to grooving a tire, you always just want to try to do what you're going to do and what you think will look and work the best. One of the things to remember is you don't want to over groove them. If I added a bunch of grooves in here or cut this out with a cut already here, what's going to happen is I'm just going to start ripping tread off, and that's going to happen with any tire. Now I've grooved every tire from a BFG red label crawler to these to super swampers to anything else. Any way that I can get better traction, I'm going to do it. So the first thing I suggest before grooving a tire out is getting a paint marker and figuring out exactly where you want your grooves. You can use this with a piece of chalk or anything else, but I like to just groove my tires like that. Basically, if I was going to do a swamper and then every third stage lug, I'd come out, but I'd probably pull out of the groove about here, so it's not at the end. Once you come out to the end, that's where I've seen these lugs shred apart again. So you want to stop here and work your way in. Now, you don't have to have a paint marker. You could use tape, or you could just use a Sharpie or whatever you want to do. If you're down south and you got the big swampers and you're really trying to open them up, I have seen people use these to actually cut the lugs off. So let's give this a try first. Well, it works, not the way I'd really like. It takes a pretty long time. It would be extremely time consuming to do it that way with that tool. We'll move on to the Sawzall, and then we'll go to the tire groover. So the nice thing about the tire groover is I can come in right here and cut into the tire and then work my way through it. You see what I'm saying? So I just come in, groove it, and then cut right through. Okay, and I'm not even pushing, I'm just like my hands wide open here. I'm not pushing that hard. And then right there, bam. You have a lot more control, a lot more ability to do what you want. If I'm gonna come in, let's see here, boom, boom, boom. This is why marking your tires the way you want them helps too. But bam, it's cut. I also like the tire groover more because I have control over the depth. So I can set my depth to the tire, and I don't have to worry about accidentally sawzalling through it or chopping through it. I know that my depth is no deeper than the carcass of the tire itself. Easiest way I've found to groove tires, jack the whole rig up, have them mounted, then I'm not fighting the wheel because it's nice and tight, and I can just turn it and groove them, and everything goes good. So grooving your tires serves a couple good purposes. First one being is now that everything's opened up, the tire's going to clean out better. Meaning if you live in a place where there's a lot of mud, it's going to open up and allow that mud and water to disperse out much easier than it would if the tire traction is a lot tighter together. That's why boggers do so well in the mud. The problem with boggers is everything is this way and you have no traction going this way. And that's why if you had a bogger, you'd want to cut your grooves in there this way. Secondly, is now with everything opened up like this, as you drive over rocks, what it's allowing now is that the tread isn't going to just be compressed because it's next to itself. It'll actually allow it to fold in and grip onto that rock better. So it's a two-part system, or two-purpose system of grooving tires, and that's why I like to do it to any of my rock crawlers for sure. Now, if you're into RC rock crawling at all, which I am, then you know why I'm out of Simple Green. So this is something I do all the time. Every time I go out with my RC rock crawlers, I'll get another can of Simple Green or another bottle of Simple Green, and I will spray the tire down with it, and it softens up that rubber, renews that rubber, cleans it up, and makes it really, really grippy and sticky. I mean, you look at how I can just twist these lugs around on this tire, and this is just from a year of spraying Simple Green on it. When it comes to big tires, you got a couple options. You can just douse it in ATF, but the problem is that's going to cost money, and you got to make sure that you have it in a bucket, and you want to save it and catch it just like you do with oil or anything else. You don't want to just cover your ground with it. Since companies have came out with sticky tires, I haven't been concerned with trying to soften them up. But if I had my old Super Swampers or a DOT tire that I'm only going to run off-road, then I do want to soften that up. And in that case, I would hit it with diesel. I've used buckets that I've just filled with diesel and then rolled the tire in it, or set the tire in there and let it sit overnight and do each tire that way. Other things I've done is just put it in a sprayer and sprayed the outside of the tire. And what that does is just soften up the outside of the outer end of this rubber, just enough to get good traction for the day. I know that guys in the competition world do that. We haven't needed to do that as much anymore, or you haven't seen that much anymore, or you don't hear it talked about, is because so many companies have a sticky tire. One thing I should mention is none of these are new technologies. A lot of this stuff's been used for centuries. It's just a matter of things that a lot of us forget or just haven't done. But if you haven't seen this is something you should probably check out. Oh man, these tires are gonna hook up. Tested out these tires, tested out my tire grooves. They work really, really good. I'm really happy with the extra traction that I got. That just that little bit makes, sometimes that little bit makes a lot of difference. So anyway, if you guys like this video, check these out.